Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. We've got some malicious compliance stories, and our first story of the day is by Hysterymystery. Monitor tech tried and failed to prove me wrong. This was 15 or so years ago. I got my first job in nursing at a big hospital on a unit that often used heart monitors. We had monitor screens on the unit, but because we can't always sit there and watch them, there was a department in the hospital that specialized in watching them. If a patient's heart did something wonky, they'd call us, but they also called us to notify us if the monitor wasn't working. I'm sure they had other duties, but I've never worked down there. So we had this patient who was admitted, and my nurse's aides were responsible for getting this patient set up on the monitor. There was only one monitor and it wasn't working. Well, there's a checklist of things you're supposed to do if it's not working. Change batteries, change leads, shake the batteries, shave them, etc. My aide worked on this for 2 hours and it still wasn't working. The monitor techs they called were completely unhelpful. They finally told me they had to do their other work and handed me the monitor. I went through the checklist and nothing worked. I spent at least another hour that I really couldn't afford to spend trying to get it to work. So I called the monitor techs and requested a new monitor. They have certain ones that are tied to a specific unit, like the broken one, but they also have floater monitors if some unit needs extra. They could not have been less helpful. They refused to send me a new one and insisted there was nothing wrong with the monitor and that somehow changing the battery for the 9th time would do the trick. I lost it. My license is at stake here. I know this monitor isn't going to work no matter what I do, but I can't just leave this guy without one. If he has a heart attack and we missed it because he wasn't being monitored, I could lose my job, my license, get sued, etc. So I hung up, went to another unit, asked them for a monitor and put him on it. It wouldn't show up on our unit screens, but it would at least be monitored by someone. We don't cross-pollinate units often, but if the place is packed and floaters are out, they do it. I called and said he's on 8's monitor 89, switch him over. The woman who picked up told everyone what I said and they all groaned. I hear someone in the background say, "You tell her there is nothing wrong with that monitor." They refused to turn the monitor on. So I paged the house manager and she came down and rolled her eyes and told me that while they do teach floor staff how to troubleshoot, batteries, shaving, etc., it's actually the monitor tech's job to fix monitors that are being buggy. I didn't know that was a thing, but she pulled some dusty book out of the shelf behind me that outlined duties. So I called back and notified them that the manual said it was their job to fix this monitor. Again, the woman who answered repeated what I said to everyone in the room. I don't remember the exact words that were spoken, but basically the woman in the background was going to come prove me wrong. She came up and stood behind the nurse's station trying to make the monitor do anything. I was charting at the desk for most of that, and my coworkers and I spent the entire time glancing back and quietly laughing at her, getting more and more frustrated. I have to give it to her. She spent a good hour and a half before finally accepting that it just wasn't going to freaking work. I never got an apology or anything, but watching her walk off in a huff was good enough. And a part of me hopes this put her behind on her own work tasks like I was. Well, I certainly hope that all this time the patient was getting some kind of monitoring. If this whole situation was about monitoring the patient, and it sounds like they elapsed 5+ hours just trying to get one monitor working, I sure hope they were doing some kind of proper monitoring, like OP said that they have to do. Meanwhile, everybody seemed to not want to even turn the monitor on. Having heard this story, do you think OP should put in a proper complaint about those staff that refused to work on this thing? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Green DM. Women can't wear pants in your courtroom? Alright then. One of my law school professors was a public defender, an attorney who represents poor criminal defendants in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania before he came to my school. He told me a story about a particularly uptight, read sexist, male judge and a fiery female public defender who did exactly what he asked. Court begins. The attorney walks in wearing a conservative pantsuit that wouldn't be out of place in any courtroom in America. The judge, an old man, raises his voice, points his finger at the attorney and says, "Do not come back into my courtroom until you are properly dressed. Women do not wear pants in my courtroom." The attorney does not respond. She simply walks out of the courtroom. A few minutes later, she returns wearing her suit jacket and That's it. You see, her jacket was cut long, so by itself, it fell to a little above her knees. She simply walked into the restroom, took off her pants, and came back to court. The judge never enforced that women cannot wear pants requirement in his courtroom again. I don't even really understand the thinking behind women not being able to wear pants in a legal or official or professional environment. What, is it too demeaning to the male ego to see a woman wearing pants? I genuinely don't understand that. This next story is by Francesca95. You'll only be served by the attractive bar maid? Okay, no problem. My friend told me this story and it was just too good not to share. So the town we live in has lots of good old-fashioned British pubs, and one that is a pub during the week and then turns into sort of a club at the weekends. Since it's the only place open past 12 to 1 a.m., it tends to attract a lot of drunk tickheads. My friend was working one night with 2 other bar staff. One other guy and a girl who I've been told was pretty attractive. It was about 11:55 p.m. and a guy walks up to the bar. My friend wasn't serving anyone at the time and goes to take his order. "No thanks, mate, I'll wait for her." My friend tried to explain that she was serving customers at the other end of the bar and that he would be the one to take his order. "No, I am only getting served by her, no one else." "Sure, mate, no problem." My friend then waits for his colleague to finish serving her existing customer. By the time she's done, it's around 11:57 p.m. So my friend turns to her and says, "Hey, you've only got 3 minutes left on your shift, so you might as well leave now. We've got it covered." So she leaves. My friend and the other guy working both refuse to serve him for the rest of the night, as per his request. You're gonna be that creepy guy in the bar? It's a really satisfying malicious compliance because it doesn't outright do anything bad against them, but it completely shuts them down and completely ruins their experience for them when they were trying to be creepy. Our next story is by Coop and Dot. Want us to get approval before we do anything? You got it. I work at an animal hospital. One of our policies is that we must get a deposit equal to the amount of the low end of an estimate given to owners who drop off their pet. An example of this would be collecting money for an exam fee, but not for possible diagnostics, treatments, or medications. If the amount we collect is more than the services we actually charge, we obviously refund you the money. This has been our policy for as long as I've been working here. Over 3 years. I think it's plenty reasonable. Apparently not. A woman came in wanting to drop off her cat with a swollen back foot. The receptionist asks for the deposit like she did with the other 3 drop-offs before this particular woman. She lost her mind, saying she's been coming here for years and you can check my credit score, I'll obviously pay my bill, and my personal favorite, I know Dr. No Name and he never makes me do this. Our receptionist handled it phenomenally. In the end, the woman left a credit card with us as a sign of good faith, but demanded we not do anything until she approves what is about to be done. Cue malicious compliance. The receptionist informs me, the technician, of what happened and I smiled. I looked at my assistant and said, "Let's take the cat out, but hold on until I call the owner." I called her about 5 minutes after she left and told her we were about to weigh her cat, free of charge of course. She thanks me and hangs up. Another minute later, I call again to tell the owner we were about to get a rectal temperature on her cat, again, free of charge. I hear a less pleasant "thank you" and click. Every 5 or 6 minutes, I call the owner informing her about something we were about to do with her cat. Giving it water, monitoring her paw, loving on her, and changing her blanket. This all takes during the morning surgeries. The owner's acknowledgement and tolerance getting short and annoyed with every call. But before I hung up every time, I told her the doctor would call her soon to let her know what course of treatment was needed for her cat. When the doctor did finally contact the owner and said the conversation was curt and cold. I don't know if she understood what I was doing or if my persistent calling was taken as us treating her and her cat special. She came to pick up her cat all chipper like nothing happened. At the end of the day, I hope she realized how ridiculous she was, but I probably ended up reinforcing her nasty attitude to get what she wants. I definitely think, sadly, this story is reinforcing her behavior. It sounded like she got exactly what she wanted, and although she did sound less than pleasant at times and kind of annoyed, it was what she requested and she didn't seem too bothered by that fact. This next story is by luridfox. You disqualify yourself. This will require a little setup, so bear with me. I work as a manager in a blood center, and occasionally with call-ins I go out in the field to help. Usually I just field calls for questions in issue/track data and performance. We have a lot of regulations, and whether you agree or not, we have to follow the rules set by the FDA and CDC. We could get shut down if not, and hospitals would lose a major blood supply. I had stopped by a blood drive out at a church. Of course, issues with rude people are always at churches. I was there to check in on a new supervisor and do some observations, and luckily I was handy. I saw some commotion going on at registration, and the supervisor was giving me a help look. As I walked over, I could see an angry Karen huffing and red in the face, no mask. "Here is my manager," says the supervisor with a sigh. Karen, as it turns out, wanted to donate blood. Fantastic, right? A great place to do that. We have to have all donors wear a mask, no exceptions. We will even provide you one. The risk of spreading disease and virus or the blood being somehow contaminated is too high, so the federal guidelines say we have to. She then tells me that she will not wear a mask, which prompts me to inform her that guidelines say we have to require it without exceptions. She told me that she has terrible asthma and it is so bad that she cannot wear a mask. She will suffocate. Doubtful, medically speaking, that's not even accurate, but not the place. I then asked her if she had current symptoms and that is why she did not want to wear a mask. She told me that yes, her asthma was acting up today and so we should allow her to donate blood and not require her to wear a mask. That masks do not work and blah blah normal BS about that. I then informed her that our guidelines prohibit anybody with active asthma from donating, so it works out. She tried to backpedal that they weren't that bad and that we are trying to control her freedom. She left after asking who she can complain to me about, to which I gave her the main number. "Go right ahead, my name is OP." I was polite the whole time, even-toned, matter-of-fact, and not demeaning, and I find that sometimes that itself can be more bothersome to people than if I escalated. The satisfaction I took from the look on her face when I informed her that her reason for being unable to wear a mask is what specifically deferred her from donating was priceless. I was not even hungry after that because I was full of that warm, wonderful feeling. FYI, active asthma symptoms restrict you from being able to donate due to that itself puts a strain on your pulmonary/cardiovascular systems. Donating blood can have, rarely, the potential to really put a strain on it. Rarely, but it is still a risk. We have people pass out occasionally anyway, not too often, usually psychosomatic, so we don't want any other potential risk. The only good thing here is she was trying to donate blood. Every other detail from this Karen in this story was absolutely either incorrect, ignorant, or just flat out disrespectful. Mask or not, a normal surgical grade mask you should be able to wear just fine. And our final story of the day is by Goody23. We need to stop work while you rehearse? As you wish. Over a decade ago, I got a job working as a grip on a TV series. Hard work, lots of lifting and shifting, but a cool experience. I'd only worked on films before and had to work to catch up to the pace. The last 2 weeks, we shot on location at this big house that the production company had leased. Most of the actors were very chilled. One night, I had a most surreal chat with the lead while he sprawled in his undies in between takes, while the TV played the first episode of a different show that he happened to be in. But one actress was a bit precious. I was just a lowly third grip who was busting his butt trying to keep up, so I was surprised when I was prepping crates in the garage and my boss came along and told me to stop. I asked why. A rule of thumb is to stop work as much as practical during filming so you don't make a sound that gets picked up by the boom during a take or worse, goes into an actor's eye line. Said actress thought crew should stop during rehearsals so she wouldn't get distracted. She passed this on and somehow this actually became a thing, much to the annoyance of the grips and gaffers. Apparently, while I was in the garage, the actors had started rehearsing in the back room, several walls and doors away. But the key grip had conspired with other department heads, and we all stopped working during every rehearsal that day, no matter where any of us were. Of course, we filmed much less than we were meant to that day because we couldn't set up much in advance. The policy was scrapped and I got some very well-paid overtime when we did catch up at the end of production. I definitely understand not wanting to mess up the actors in their flow, especially when they're doing the proper filming. During rehearsal, that's definitely a whole other thing. It's not going to be filmed, it's okay if you mess up, that's what rehearsal is for. You definitely shouldn't stop the production crew every time a rehearsal needs to be done. So it was kind of fun to see all of the production come together and conspire against them to make them realize how ridiculous this policy truly was. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which one and why in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you haven't, and turn on notifications so you'll never miss an upcoming video from the Storytime channel. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, so no matter what you did, thank you for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time right here.